15 years they hit the headlines and each other, mixed violence with religion, smashed guitars and convention. They were the mod band, the high priests of rock and roll outrage, playing harder, longer and louder than anyone else. But what of the Who now? Who are they anyway?
Beginning, there were 4 snotty punks playing devil's music deep in the bowels of London town.
Well, Roger, here we are in the marquee, no less. Seeing your very first gig as The Who, is it not?
Well, yeah, I suppose you could call it that. First significant gig, yeah.
Well, the first... You'd gone from being a band called The High Numbers, right? Back to being The Who.
Before that. I mean, this was the first one that meant anything, yeah. I mean, it was all pubs and weddings and social functions before that.
And bar mitzvahs?
No bar mitzvahs.
Not too many.
Unfortunately. They were well paid, I hear.
Anyway,
We've got the next question.
I'm just getting the old signals and everything. What was it like, the marquee in those days? All the mods, the queues at the doors and...
It wasn't... I mean, it was just as dirty as it is today, really. I mean, I've been looking around. I mean, quite a lot's changed. The bar, there wasn't a bar over there, and the dressing room was half the size as it is now, and the stage was about a third the size. Basically, it's the same. It was a great... I mean, I don't know... I'm a bit old now, I mean, to know what the kids feel today, but I mean, when I think back about that period, it was as though we were a kind of express train. Like, the youth movement was like going one way and there's nothing in the world that's going to stop it.
You started off here at the Marquee, a small little place. The Beatles started at a club, the Cavern in Liverpool. The Animals started at the club at Go-Go in Newcastle. The Marquee is the only one of those 3 that's left.
Not just the Who started at the Marquee, though. I mean, that's the amazing thing about this club. I mean, Eric Clapton, the Yardbirds, so many bands started down here. Chris Barber. I mean, it all started here. Chris Barber, yeah. Just going back a bit, isn't it?
Jam sessions, did you ever get involved in any of those?
No, it was very funny, because it's the one thing that nobody would dare do with The Who. we come up and jam. And very few. There's only about one. That was John Sebastian that I can remember has ever jammed with the Who.
Would you ever fancy playing a place like this again?
No.
People try to put us to down. Talking about my generation. Just because we get around. Talking about my generation. Things they do look awful. Talking about my generation. I hope I die before I get old. Talking about my generation. This is my generation, baby. Why don't you all fade away?
I don't know, I'd hate to be a band starting out today. I mean, I can't even attempt to imagine the kind of the steepness of that ladder in front of you. I mean, when we started, so much hadn't been done. I mean, hardly anybody ever heard of rhythm and blues. I mean, the old Chicago-type blues. Tamla Motown, nobody had heard of. I mean, what we basically did in the early days, we used to blatantly copy it. But because we were British, I mean, it came out slightly like a bad copy.
It was bands like you as well, like
but
in America.
Today, I mean, what do people do if so much has been done? I mean, I hate to think what it must be like trying to do something new today.
Really an emotional thing. Roger very much feels that, and I have to agree with him to a great extent, that you know, you can't be in a rock band and you can't have a successful rock band unless you tour. That playing, performing, being in front of an audience is part of it, because rock and roll is theatre. That's part of its success, is the fact that it works physically in front of people. It makes people jump up and down. Record players don't often do that. Neither does television. At a rock concert, it's very rare to see somebody with their feet up and a pipe and a, you know, bacon sarnie. I mean, as long as we do get on stage to do it, I mean, then to me it's all worthwhile. To me, the rest of it, it's all playing about, I mean, and avoiding the real issue, because to me, a group, especially a group like The Who, which is a very kind of idealistic group anyway, only exists, it's only ever as good as its last show, if you like. If I can just sort of distill down the whole point about touring. A rock and roll band has to perform, there's no question about it. I mean, if it's going to be alive, it has to perform. And I accept that. But what I can't do anymore is I can't do long, sustained tours. It's not performing live that I'm complaining about. It's the fact that tours, like bloody circuses, are what the rock business is all about. I don't really want to be part of a circus anymore. If that's what rock and roll has to be about, then I'm not involved in rock and roll anymore.
Yeah, I know that feeling very well.
I think that's about as simple as I can put it.
I don't feel that I'm in a group unless I'm on stage. I mean, I do need to be out there in front of live people. I mean, to me, it's the only time you actually put yourself on a line and say, look, this is what we are. Because all the rest is done behind the scenes, and I'm not interested in that. I don't like it. I hate it. It's like working in an office, if you like.
I want to be on a stage. There's no greater band to be on with. You know, I like performing, but I don't like aeroplanes, I don't like hotels, and I don't like all that stuff. I'm sick of it. I've been doing it for 15 years. I'm fed up with it.
I know the only place I can relax, you know, like when I'm away, is as soon as I get home and I crash out and I become like a zombie.
Sort of like now.
Like now, yeah.
But behind the men and their music is the technology of rock and roll. So I asked Bill Harrison, one of the Who's roadies, to take me on a guided tour of the Who's gear.
Yeah, this is Pete stack. As you can see, 6 high-watt cabinets powered by 3 100-watt high-watt amps. Standard cabinet enclosures, except that Pete has JBL speakers in these bottom 3 here for the particular sound that Pete
I like the break on the
requires.
end.
Yes, we do tend to get 1 or 2 small mishaps on the road. And Pete's trusty Gibson Les Paul.
Mark number 6.
Yes, number 6, as he does need to carry quite a number on the road for obvious reasons.
As the break in the... This is what's making him deaf, is it?
Good grief. Kenny Jones, our latest addition. Drum kit, Premier resonator kit, which means it has double shells inside. A standard resonator kit surrounded by these Premier concert toms, Pasty and Avidas Zildjian cymbals.
What is that?
That is Mr. Jones' beer cooler. You can see over the back. Fill with ice, cool your beers, last all the show. Bass guitar stack, some cabinets.
An interesting looking bass.
John Entwistle's custom-built alembic bass guitar.
With spider's webs etched thereon.
As you
Man
can
has an
see,
obsession with
down
spiders, they tell me.
Yes, this is true.
And what's this thing? More drinking?
This is John Entwistle's microphone stand, 2 drink bottles, 1 for his throat, 1 for the brain. And this is John's amp rack, which powers his...
How
his
much
guitar
is
stack.
all this equipment worth? I mean,
All this equipment?
well, I mean, everything the Who has on stage.
To put on the... Oh, you're talking of £200,000 for a complete production?
Good grief. All right, over here we have, it looks like, an original drum kit.
Yes, the pictures of Lily Kit, circa 1967, I believe, built for the band's first tour of the States. As you can see, heavily pictured with Keith all around.
That's Keith.
That's Keith, with no clothes on.
What? It happens to all of us on the best of occasions. The bass drums look a bit new. I mean, are they
Yes,
original?
no, in fact, the original bass drums never stood the passage of time over the years, and in fact, they're from Keith's last stage kit.
What's this, anyway?
An old timpani skin, which Keith used to use with the running order on, as you can see.
I mean, I would have thought that someone, after all that time, would have remembered what the set was.
Well, not quite, no. You sometimes need a gentle reminder.
A gentle reminder. All right. Well, we've seen a lot there. What I shall do now is show you the kind of thing that Keith Moon used to do with his drum kit by taking this enormous, huge mallet and...
See me, feel me, touch me, hear me. See me, feel me, touch me.
August 1969. In a field 50 miles from the small town of Woodstock in the USA, The Who perform excerpts from their classic rock opera, Tommy, before an audience of almost 500,000 assorted hippies gathered together under the banner of music, peace, and love.
See me, feel me, touch me, heal me. Listening to you, I get music, gazing at you. I get you, following you. I fly story.
The next 5 years were to see Tommy grow from a handful of songs performed on stage into one of the landmarks of rock music. Townsend's story of the deaf, dumb and blind boy who went on to become a pinball wizard captured film director Ken Russell's imagination, and Tommy the Movie was released with an all-star cast including fellow rocker Elton John, a cast of thousands and a budget of over $3 million.
Feeling all the bumpers, always playing clean. He plays by intuition, that digit counters fall. That deaf, dumb, and blind kid shall play the million-pound ball. He's a pinball wizard, there has to be a twist. A pinball wizard got such a simple wrist. How do you think? I don't know what they stand for. Well, he ain't got no distractions, can't hear no buzzers and bells. Don't he like to flash him? He plays by sense of smell. Always has a replay, never tilts at all. That deaf, dumb, and blind kid shall play the mean pinball.
What's it feel like to go from being the pop star on stage, swinging his arm around and everything, to being a businessman, more or less? It's effectively what you are now. You're an executive film producer, in a way.
Well, this is something that I'm often asked. The companies that I formed, I mean, particularly Eel Pie, which is my own company, you know, that's brought me back closer to reality than any amount of touring in California gigs would ever do. I deal with young bands every day. They come in, the problems are they can't afford guitar strings, their Ford Transit van has got 150,000 miles on the clock, you know, they can't get gigs. You know, I mean, those are the kind of problems that I now deal with on a day-to-day basis because I'm in a company, because I'm running a company. In fact, I started the company partly for that reason. That's one way that I feel I can get back to really what's happening out there.
There's a lot of big business about it. I mean, does that worry you? You know,
it bores me.
You're the one who...
It bores me to death. I hate it.
Well, you're the one who wants to go out on the road, like you see yourself on the road all the time. So we read.
Yes. I mean, it just, like I say, it bores me. I mean, I like it if I've got the live part. If I am on the road, then the rest of that makes sense. But that on its own is complete rubbish to me. It's exactly what I didn't want to be. I didn't join a rock and roll band to be a businessman.
Brighton in the early 60s, mecca for the mods and location for the Who's new film, Quadrophenia. These 60s punks rode scooters and popped pills, wore parkas and Levi's, danced to filthy rhythm and blues, and worshipped groups like the Small Faces and the Who. 10 years later, Pete Townsend remembered his days as a mod and invented Jimmy, scooter-riding, pill-popping, parka-wearing mod who leaves home and his profession as a dust man to travel to Brighton, there to join forces with the other mods and modesses. Quadrophenia would take them even further into the world of big business, production budgets and ulcers, and away from the stage. What would become of the Who now?
The Who, when they got involved with the production budgets for Quadrophenia, we had financial people look after us on that basis. I mean, occasionally we go in and bang tables, but it won't be on the issue of money, and it won't be on the issue of business. It will be on the issue of the quality and the nature of the films, or for example, with Shepperton Studios, we want to bring that place to life. We're not interested in the money side of it, or the business side of it. They're problems for people in pinstripes to deal with.
When did you get down here then?
I got down here about half an hour ago.
Yeah?
Well, we left this morning before it was light.
What was it like?
Well, it was dark, wasn't it, eh?
Oh, look at him. Don't he look smart?
Oh, look.
Look at the scooter.
That is ace. Whoa! Whoa! So, what happened to you last night?
That'd be telling now, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it? Schultz!
Thanks for waiting, leaving turd.
Where'd the bird go?
10 a pound, Sprout, 10 a pound. Oi! Hey, you can't do that. You can't do that.
We tracked the deuced, spotty, mad urchin Phil Daniels, who plays the part of Jimmy in the film, and the fractured Leslie Ash, who plays his bird Striff. They were about to brave a plate of eels in the very pie and mash shop where Mods, Townsend and Daughtry used to exchange belches.
Good grief! Miss Phil Daniels and Leslie Ash, stars of Quadrophenia. That's the new Who rock musical, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's the Who film, yeah.
Well, what about the big scene? Right.
In Brighton.
In Brighton, yeah.
The beach fighting.
Yeah, because I grew up in Brighton, you see, and I remember the big mod against rocker battle. You know, it was a big part of when I grew up. It was a real adventure.
Well, it was great. They had a whole beach. We had a whole beach, right, to ourselves. And, like, there was the director, Frank Rodham, up at the top of the beach, filming down onto the beach. And, like, there's all of us lot on the beach. All the rockers come from that side. All the mods come from that side. And it's a big punch-up. Like, the top mod was a guy, was the Ace Face, right? Which was a guy played by Sting. He's over there.
Well, he was your idol, was he?
He was my idol. When I go to Brighton, we have the rights in Brighton. He is the top mod. He's got a silk suit, a silver silk suit, and silver leather coat, the lot, you know?
If you want style, you've got to go for something like that. As for him, you old son look like a right scruff.
Thanks, Dan. Nice suit. Subtle.
Oh, well, you're Sting. You play Ace in the film. Who's Ace?
Ace is the top mod of Brighton in the year 1964.
What's it like to sort of come from being a mod, like Ace in the film?
Yeah.
Phony, maybe?
Phony?
Do you reckon he's phony?
No, well, Jimmy thought he was a phony in the film. But I think the thing about mods is they were all working class kids, right? And with fairly mundane lives, working in boring jobs, and the only way they could escape that was by being a mod, by dressing up and having a scooter, and it was a sort of escape from reality. I don't think that's phony. I think it's good sense if you work in a car factory to have an escape or an outlet.
Well, it sounds just like Saturday Night Fever to me.
It does.
Going out there
It's the
disco on
same.
Saturday night.
It's much the same.
Well, it's really boring, though, isn't it?
No, it's not. You want to see the film.
The Who, world-famous pop group. What's it like working for them?
Well, we didn't see much of the Who actually. They stayed in the background a lot. They were the producers of the film. It was their idea in the first place, and Pete Townsend was a musical director. But apart from that, we didn't see much of them. What I did see of them was a bit disconcerting because in my youth they were the symbols of rebellion, the Who, and to meet them as members of the establishment was a bit weird.
15 years ago, Pete Townsend screamed, "Hope I die before I get old." And ironically, it was left to Keith Moon to fulfill that promise. On September the 7th, 1978, Keith Moon was found dead in his London flat after taking a massive overdose of drugs prescribed to help cure him of his addiction to drink. I asked Roger what the wild man of rock was really like.
Oh, I mean, he was everything. To me, he was life itself. He was like, if you can imagine putting your whole life into one day, I mean, that's what Keith Moon was like. I mean, incredible ups, incredible downs, and, you know, incredibly sad, incredibly happy. He'd make you laugh 1 minute, cry. I mean, he was life itself. He was a wonderful character.
He was actually changing. We're not going to be doing what we did before. It's not the same band. We can't pretend to be the same band. Keith Moon was such an individual, such a powerful drummer. I mean, it's only now that he's getting these lousy obituaries telling us how wonderful he was. I mean, he wasn't just a great clown, he was also a brilliant, innovative player.
Since Keith's died, which really, you know, knocked us for a loop. I mean, it was like losing a brother. It was like the worst period of my life. But the one thing good that came out of it is that Keith opened so many doors for us, because we were trapped in a situation where the Who, it was only the Who because of the 4 members, and to bring anyone else into that thing would have been like fatal. But now we can do anything. No one's expecting anything because it's obviously not going to be the same. We can do anything we like. We can go out with brass, orchestras. But it's obviously going to be different. I don't quite know what it's going to be like yet. I mean, you can't tell. It's obviously going to be, it's going to look a lot different, because Keith visually was amazing to watch. I mean, there's going to be a huge hole in the back of the stage to fill.
Well, I haven't actually taken his place, because I think it's impossible for anybody to take his place. You know what I mean? Because he was such an eccentric person, a lovable person as well, you know, and a good friend of mine.
Kenny Jones shouldn't be measured alongside or against Keith Moon in something that was The Who. You know, we're looking to a new album next year and a completely fresh start. And I also hope that we'll be able to get other people in the band as well. I'd like to see another guitar player in the band. And Eric Clapton can't join. He's asked 3 times, but he can't join.
I can stay with friends, you know what I mean, and relate to them because I grew up with them, and we were in rival bands at one time, and we used to drink together. And, I don't know, we have a, like the Stones, the Faces, the Who and all that were all good friends, you know, hung about together in various situations in the early days.
Son, you gotta walk a lane. Sometimes I want ain't no cure for the summertime blues. Mama told me, son, you gotta earn some money. Cause you didn't walk a leg. Sometimes I wonder how I'm gonna do. Ain't no cure for the summertime blues.
10 years' time. Let's talk about 10 years' time when the Who are approaching.
You would, wouldn't you?
15 years have been going now, that's a good innings.
When you're approaching my age.
When I'm approaching your
Yes.
age, yeah.
That got it, didn't it?
Got you fool. Do you see yourselves still together? Still going?
No, who can say? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, in some form, yeah. Whether it's a rock and roll group on the road or the Who as the name of a record production or film production company, in some form we'll be together. But as, you know, as what, I don't know.
It's difficult with rock because rock is so identified with young ideas, and I can't put it any more simply than that. And that you can be a bit of a hypocrite, you know, if you're consistently evoking the ideas of young people and bouncing off the ideas of young people, taking young people's money and putting it in your pocket, you know, and really what you are is you're a middle-aged family man. And it's only the hypocrisy that I'm worried about. I still think that I understand, you know, the emotions and the sensations and the frustrations of kids on the street. But I can't pretend to be there anymore. I don't even know if I was ever there in the first place, but I definitely am further away from the street now than I was 10 years ago. Every now and again, it has to go back to the street to be reaffirmed. You know, to get its balls back.
Roger, you haven't got very long legs yourself. I mean, I'm just touching the floor here off this stage. How do you feel about keeping your feet on the ground, like being the country squire, being the big businessman, you know?
I live in the country because I like it. I mean, it was the one thing about when I used to live in Shepherd's Bush. I mean, people tend to forget that 10 years ago I was living in a one-room council flat in Wandsworth. I mean, and I haven't forgotten it, mate. You know, you don't forget where you come from.
I think it's just because of the fact that it's very difficult to keep in touch with what's really happening out there. I mean, we all know that politicians don't know what's happening out there. That's why they're so bloody useless. I mean, they start off knowing what's happening. That's what makes them want to become politicians and makes them feel that they want to be able to change things. The same thing exactly applies to rock. You start off out there on the street, surrounded by people that you want to make it, but they also want you to make it as well. They want you to make it because you're one of them. They want you to break through, if you like, that, you know, that wall that says, you know, get back, and smash through it to prove that it can be done. But once you've done it, it takes a lot of guts to walk back through the rubble again, back to where you came from, to the dross and the depression and the frustration, and face up to that. For me, rock and roll is the most important thing in my life, and I'm not, you know, I don't want to shortchange on that level.
I had the best, for me anyway, the best backup group any singer could have. I mean, if that's, well, I mean, it's one way that I can look on it. And it's stupid to go out. I just couldn't face forming another band. Oh, God, it'd be terrible.
For me, rock and roll is the most important thing in my life, and I'm not, you know, I don't want to shortchange on that level.
I had the best, for me anyway, the best backup group any singer could have. I mean, if that's, well, I mean, it's one way that I can look on it. And it's stupid to go out. I just couldn't face forming another band. Oh, God, it'd be terrible.
Hey! Ah! Hey, man.